Hello everyone, Lar from Complete Test Success here. So today we're doing a Q&A. That basically means ask whatever questions you have about the IELTS test and I will answer them. Or alternatively, you might want to tell me what problems you're experiencing and I'll be able to give you some advice on how to overcome those problems. That's basically what we're doing today. You tell me what help you need, what questions you have, and I will give you the support that you need. Particularly, we will be focusing on the IELTS test and how to improve your scores. So, keep that in mind. Yeah. So while I'm waiting for you to share your questions and your problems, let me show you my free live feedback lessons. So these are lessons that I have, free group classes that I have on Zoom every week. I know a lot of you have already signed up, but if you haven't, you can click on this link in the comments. You'll also find it in the video description. And once you sign up, you will see the schedule and the links to join and the various topics. Hi, Gunjan. I'm doing very good. Thank you. Hi, Mohammed. Hi, Parampreet. Welcome to the lesson. So if any of you have questions, please go ahead. I'm happy to answer and I'm happy to help. Seems as if we don't have too many people joining us today. So that's a good thing for those of you who have joined. I have more time for you. So yeah, when you're ready, go ahead and ask your questions. Can IELTS result be repeated by IDP? I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Parampreet. Can you give me some more information about this question? I don't fully understand what you mean by that. Can they be repeated by IDP? So could you just rephrase your question, Parampreet, please? Hi, Njaku. So you have an issue with your speaking component. So what you need to do is you need to find out what exactly your issue is. So you might have a fluency problem, which requires one solution. You might have a vocab problem, which means you need to improve your vocab. You might have a grammar problem. You might have a pronunciation problem. You might have multiple problems. And then, like, take grammar, for instance. What is your grammar problem? If grammar is the issue, then you need to know, is it a problem with subject-verb agreement? Is it prepositions? Is it articles? So at the moment, with this analysis here, you've said that you have an issue with speaking. That's not enough information to help you improve your scores, because you can't just improve speaking. You need to improve one aspect. And focusing on your main weakness is the best way to improve your scores. So do you have any idea what your weaknesses are or what your weakness is? If you do, that's great. And you just work on improving it. And if you don't, then your first goal would have to be find out what your issues are. Hi, Sohail. Hassan. Hi, Hassan. How to generate ideas for cue card? Generally, they'll be on pretty standard and like well-known topics. So they're not going to ask you to discuss something that you would need some like specialized knowledge on. They're not going to ask you, specifically, how to perform heart surgery or something like that. They're going to ask you something, to describe something from your life, some experience that you've had, or, perhaps describe a situation that you've experienced. So it shouldn't really be that you need to generate ideas. It's normally you will just talk about, a situation that you've already experienced. So generally that would be it. So can you give me an idea about like what cue card did you get? Like what cue card question have you seen and you don't know how to answer it, that you couldn't think of any ideas? So if you could share with me one of the questions that you struggled with, I might have some more advice for you based on that. Can IDP intentionally repeat the result of a candidate? So repeat means do again, and I'm not sure how that. I think you're using the wrong word. I think repeat is the wrong word to use, Parmpreet. Can IDP intentionally repeat the result? Sorry, I still don't understand that question. I think maybe just check the meaning of the word repeat. I feel like you're probably using the wrong word. That repeat isn't the word you need. So just take a look, have a quick look, do a Google search for the meaning of repeat, and make sure that that's the word that you need. Gunjan, I'm facing a lot of difficulties in synonyms and reading part. Well, with synonyms, you don't learn synonyms. You don't go out, you don't sit down at your study desk. You don't sit down and say, today I'm studying synonyms. You should never be learning synonyms. You need to learn vocabulary. That's what you need to do. By improving your vocabulary, you will know more synonyms. So you would never try to improve your knowledge of synonyms. You would just improve your vocab. So, like if, for example, if I said to you, what's a synonym for the word big? Like, I'm sure you know lots of synonyms, but you never sat down and said, okay, I'm going to learn synonyms for the word big. You just learn vocabulary. And from that, as your vocab improves, you naturally will know more synonyms. Another thing then is a lot of students put far too much emphasis on synonyms in the writing test. So even yesterday, I was correcting an essay, and it was very clear that the student didn't want to use the word people. So they're trying to think of what other way to say people. They have many, many different words. Instead of saying people, which was the perfect word to say, they're trying to replace it with words that aren't appropriate. So it's very common to find students who really feel like the key to getting a high IELTS writing score is to have lots and lots of synonyms, and that's not the case. If you know a synonym, you should use a synonym. So for example, like if you don't want to say big again, you might say large, and they mean the same thing. But if you're writing an essay and you don't want to say people, and instead of saying people you say humans, well, that's not a direct synonym. It has a very similar meaning, but it's not used in the same situation. So, that's a very common problem where candidates are too focused on synonyms and not focused enough on writing in a way that's very clear and that's very easy to understand. So that would be my comment on difficulties with synonyms. Learn vocab and don't make it a big focus of your writing. For reading, I think the thing that most students miss when they're reading is the analysis of their mistakes. So what I'll get is, many times I've met a student and they've said, I've done all the reading tests. Once you've done them all, they're no use to you again. And they're a very, very valuable resource. You really need to have practice reading tests to help you improve. But just doing one reading test, another, that doesn't really improve your scores. I mean, at the beginning, it will, but once you reach kind of your upper limit, you're not going to improve any further. So you might do, 15, 20 reading tests and get the exact same score. So instead of just doing more and more and more reading tests, what you need to do is like do one reading test and look at all your incorrect answers, figure out what you did wrong, why you got them wrong, and understand exactly your problem. What have you done wrong to get the wrong answer? What mistake did you make to arrive at the wrong answer? And once you understand what your mistakes are and what you're doing wrong, then you can fix them. So that's probably the most important thing when it comes to reading, is find out why you got those answers wrong. Once you understand what you did wrong, you can fix it. So, be very careful with your analysis. Spend a lot of time analyzing your answers. Make sure you get the very specific issue that you have, and then it will be much easier to improve. Hi, Vipin. Is it necessary to use conditional sentence in speaking and writing? No, it's not. You need to use complex structures, and complex sentences are one example of complex structure. So yes, you need to use complex sentences. One type of complex sentence is a conditional sentence. So if you use it, that counts as a complex sentence. But it's not that you have to use conditionals, it's that you have to use complex sentences. So you might use a conditional, you might not. Using a conditional isn't a requirement, but it does fulfill the requirement of using complex sentences. So a longer answer than you expected, but no, it's not necessary to use them, but they are useful. How can I get tentative speaking questions for speaking 2023? I mean, you find somebody who works for IELTS who is willing to do illegal things, and you give them money, I guess. I think it's a bad way of preparing because there's so many scammers online. So like you'll easily find somebody who'll take your money, but they might give you, a Word document that they wrote last night. A better approach to getting your speaking scores is improve your weaknesses. So, rather than trying to get the questions, and the problem then is, right, you have the questions. What are you going to do with those questions? You're going to prepare an answer before you get to the test. But then when the examiner hears you giving a memorized answer, that you're just repeating something that you've memorized, they're not going to give you a good score for repeating something you've memorized. It's to test your speaking. And when somebody is repeating something they've memorized, it sounds different. The way they speak, the intonation, the language will very often be different. The number of mistakes there will be fewer mistakes. So there are many signs that somebody is using a memorized answer, and the IELTS examiners are trained to ignore all of the content of the pre-prepared answer. So you go in with a pre-prepared answer, the answer is great fluency, great vocab, great grammar, great pronunciation, but none of it counts towards your score. The examiner just take that, ignore it, and then give your score based on the other answers. So, I mean, even if you could get the questions that you will get in your test, the fact is, you're not going to be able to use that to memorize an answer. It's not a good approach. So like I said earlier, if you need to improve your speaking score, focus on improving your fluency, your vocab, your grammar, your pronunciation. Focus on improving those things. That's the best thing you can do. Vipin, among IELTS General and Academic, which one is more easy to get 7.5 in reading and 7.5 in writing? In reading, well, you need to get more answers right in general to get the same score. So like the general test feels easier, but you need to get more answers correct. So even though the process of doing it feels like you're doing better, but your score will equate to the same score with academic. So with reading, it doesn't really make a difference. Somebody who would get a 7.5 in general would also get a 7.5 in academic. So yes, the academic test is more difficult, but you don't need as many correct answers to get 7.5. So it balances out. Writing. So writing task 2 is the exact same. Task 2 is the exact same in each one. But task 1 is different. Now, I think at the beginning, task 1 is more challenging. So trying to figure out how to write a task 1, I say what information to include, what information not to include, like especially the overview. What is an overview? How do you write an overview? What information to put in? And then like if you put in a percentage, like, in January, the sales of shoes was, 10% of the total. You put in the figure, the data from the chart in your overview, and now it's not an overview anymore. Instantly, you get a band 5 for task achievement. So those types of mistakes are easy to make. It's easy to get a low score in academic task 1 before you learn how to write an answer for that task. So before studying IELTS, I think academic is more difficult. However, with general training, part of your task achievement score is using the correct tone. So if you use formal vocabulary in an informal letter, then your task achievement score goes down very quickly. And vice versa. If you use informal language in a formal letter, again, your task achievement score. So even one word, or it could be, a more formal structure, grammatical structure, it's very easy for your task achievement score to go down. Now, with academic task 1, you just learn how to do it. And once you learn how to do it, you know how to do it, you can get a good score. With general training task 1, you might never have learned if words are formal or informal. You don't know which words are formal, which words are informal. You know what they mean. You know how to use them. You know how to communicate with them. But the problem is, if you've never learned which words are formal or informal, it's very easy for you to get a low task achievement score because you use a word, you thought it was formal or you thought it was okay, it's actually informal. Suddenly your task achievement score goes down. So for general training, the problem is, you might have to relearn or at least learn additional information about every word that you already know in English. So that can be tricky. So general training task 1, I think it's probably more challenging overall, whereas academic questions seem more difficult. If you're unfamiliar with the whether language, the vocab is formal or informal, it can be very challenging to improve your general training task 1. So I think overall, a long answer, but overall I would say general training is probably more difficult. Hi Sud, good to see you here. Hello IELTS Eagle, welcome back. Hi Sanu, I'm doing good, thank you. Hi teacher, what date is the next general task 1 writing? If you go to my YouTube page, wait, no. Hang on, I'll actually just share it with you and I'll show you. But excuse me, I pressed the wrong button. Okay, so on the YouTube page, you can see, if you just scroll down, you can see all the upcoming live streams here. So the good thing about that is it'll convert the time into your time zone as well. So for me, the lessons are at 9:30 a.m., but obviously if you're in a different country, that's going to be a different time. So just go and have a look there. You'll see them all lined up, all the live streams coming up, and that should answer your question for you. You'll see them there. Hi, Safad. Tajamal, hello, welcome back. Okay, so In the majority of places around the world, people do search for family background. This is a belief that searching for the history is a good thing. Another view, however, I'm not sure what this is about, Sud. I'm not sure why you're sharing that with me. What strategy should I use for answering task 2 speaking? I have a strategy now, and I'll share it with you. I'll just share it with you in the comments. So I'll go IELTS speaking part 2. Joko, if you have a look in the comments, I've just shared with you here. There, speaking part 2 strategy. Click on that link and you will see what to do. Okay. You have your test on. You had your test already on 3rd of December. Okay, best of luck with your scores. Let us know how you get on. Is it possible to get leaked papers? I don't think that's well. First of all, it's illegal, but you'll find there are lots of Facebook groups where people are going like you have get leaked questions, just send me a direct message, and I'm sure the next message after you send them a direct message is what's your credit card information, give me your bank details or something like that. I mean, when you're dealing with people who are doing illegal things, you're taking a pretty big risk. I mean, if they're willing to do something illegal, how trustworthy are they with your credit card details? I personally, I would not be taking that chance. So is it possible? I think it's more likely you'll find somebody to steal your money if you go down that route. Is it possible? Maybe. I don't know. I've never looked into it. When I'm preparing my students, when students join my course, I help them to actually improve their ability to get their IELTS scores. So I would never go down that path. Oh, sorry to hear that. Ratul, I have a question. Last time when I got 6.5 in speaking and I want to get 7. Could you suggest me some tips or some way that I can do that? Yeah, so Ratul, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to, I was talking about this earlier on with Njoku. Excuse me. You're going to need to figure out what your problem is. Is it a problem with fluency, vocab, grammar, or pronunciation? And of course, different students will have different problems. So it's not that there's one solution for everybody. Your issue could be, any range of things. For some students, it might be, one small pronunciation mistake that they're making. For one student, it might be one particular grammar area. For one student, it might be that they speak a little bit slowly or they need too much time to think. So, I can't really tell you exactly what you need to do specifically. So you really need, you need, like I have one-on-one services. I do speaking tests. I have speaking courses. And this is what I help my students with, is telling them exactly what they're doing wrong. But that's the first step. You need to find out, why are you getting a 6.5, not a 7? And once you know that, you can focus on that particular issue, or maybe it might be 2 issues that you need to fix. But it's hard to say. It's hard for me to tell you exactly what to do without analyzing your speaking. So present and future generations is. So I'm sorry, I really have no idea what this is about. Can you give me some context? Why are you sending this to me? I'm happy to help, but I just need to know what I'm looking at or why I'm looking at it first. The speaking examiner was asking me why on every question. So what that means is you weren't explaining your answers. You have to explain your answers. That's how you get a high fluency and coherence score. If you don't explain your answer, the examiner will encourage you to continue by asking you why. If the examiner asks you 1 or 2 times, that's not a big problem. But if the examiner is asking you every time, that means that you're not developing your answers yourself. So you're forcing the examiner to try and get you to talk. But for fluency and coherence, you have to show that you're willing to talk and you don't need to get, the extra push from the examiner. So yeah, that would indicate that you weren't answering the questions fully, or sorry, that you weren't developing your answers fully. His facial expression was not good while given her answer. I wouldn't worry about the facial expression. Most IELTS examiners are bored to death, to be honest with you. That's it's very rare that you'll find an IELTS examiner that's excited and friendly and enthusiastic and happy. Normally, they're very much robotic. They're just like, read the question, listen, look at the band descriptors, make some notes, check the time, check what questions to ask. So they're going through the motion of doing their jobs, analyzing your speaking, giving you the scores. It's not very common for an IELTS examiner to be, very engaged in what you're saying. So I wouldn't worry about that side of things. That would be most candidates' experience. So I wouldn't worry about that. Your tips are very useful for multiple choice questions. Good. Glad I can help. Thanks for letting me know. What will my GT? I'm not sure what that means. Can you guide me for reading summary tips? So I mean, my reading, I was talking earlier on about analyzing your mistakes. So, always make sure that you find out why you got your answer wrong. Once you know what you did wrong, then you can use that information to improve your scores. So, you fix that problem, don't repeat that mistake, and then your scores go up in the next test. For all question types, I think like just the idea of going paragraph by paragraph, I think that's probably the best advice I can give you after that. So it doesn't matter on the question type. Instead of looking at your question and then trying to find the answer in the text, you read the first paragraph, and with that information, you answer as many questions as you can. Then you read the second paragraph, answer as many questions as you can. So going paragraph by paragraph is much, much easier. And it would go for any question type. So, when you have the information, you're going to look through the summary questions, see if you can fill in any of the information. If you can, if you can't, move on to the next question and then the next paragraph. So just go paragraph by paragraph. And then once you've finished, go back and analyze why did you get any incorrect answers you got for the reading summary. Like, figure out what did you do wrong. Did you read the instructions incorrectly? Did you not understand something because of vocabulary? Did you spell the word incorrectly? Like what exactly are you doing wrong? So figure that out. Oh, I'm not sure. Hang on a second. Is task 2 one page, both size is good for answer? Yeah. If you need an extra page, you are probably writing too many words. Or maybe your writing is too big. I've seen that on very rare occasions that people, like, their writing is so big that they only get about 4 words per sentence. But generally, students who need an extra page, they're writing too many words. Pippin, you're very welcome. Aretha, complete test success. I want to send my writing to get assessed through scoring. Yep, absolutely. I offer that service. So what I have is individual essay corrections. So you can buy the essay corrections. You send me your writing. I give you your feedback. I also have a writing course. So that's like, the full package with lessons, video lessons on how to improve. Of course, essay corrections included, one-on-one meetings together. So it depends on what you're looking for, but you'll find both of those here. I just left a comment with the link. One-on-one essay, one-on-one corrections, and IELTS courses. Click on that link in the comments and you will find that. Or if it's easier for you, you can just send me an email. Okay. Suit, again, you're going to have to give me more context. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I'm not sure. I don't know what that's in relation to, but good. Okay, Ratul. Last time when I attempt, I got 6.5 in speaking and I want to get 7 in speaking. Could you suggest some? So we talked about that already, Ratul. Any recommended materials to improve my vocabulary? Yeah, definitely. So I have a lesson on that. And I'll share it with you here. So I think in general, the thing about improving your vocabulary is like you have to learn one word at a time. It's very time consuming. But probably the biggest issue is when students learn vocabulary, they just learn like the word and the meaning instead of learning, the word and the collocations, and if it's formal or informal and how to pronounce it. So there's so much that you need to learn about each phrase that if you just get the bare, learn the word, learn the meaning, then you'll understand it in reading and you'll understand it in listening. But then when you try to use it in speaking or you use it in your writing, you don't have enough information. So a big part of improving your vocab is learning enough information about each phrase. So not just the meaning, but how to use it, when to use it, what collocations, all that stuff. So I'll share, I have another link for you down here, Njoku. So if you go to the comments, I just left a comment, it says strategy to improve vocabulary. So click on that link. You'll find more detail than I've just mentioned. But I think that would be the most important thing, is make sure that you're learning enough information that you can use it correctly, not just enough information that you can understand it. That would be the big thing. Hi, Jaslyn. Can we go a little bit informal in speaking and use contractions? You should use contractions. When we're speaking, if there is a contraction, it's far more natural to use one than to use the individual word. So yes, and it's not even you can go a little bit informal. You can go completely informal. And often the students that get higher scores are the students who use informal phrases and colloquial language and stuff like that. So yeah, I would recommend not just go a little bit informal, go 100% informal. Talk the way you would normally talk, whatever language you would normally use. That's the stuff that's going to get you a higher score. If you naturally speak in a very formal way, that's fine too. It's not that you have to be informal, but I would really recommend that you speak the way you most naturally speak. That will get you the highest score. If you normally speak in an informal way and you try to speak in a formal way when you get to the IELTS test, you're not going to be as natural. You're not going to use as much good language. Tajamal says, my requirement is 8777. How do I get it? I'd say wait until you get your scores first. Wait until you get the results of your test, and then see which areas you need to improve. Because, you might have some scores that are already the scores you need, and then you don't need to work on those. So just focus on your weaknesses. Ratul, my fluency and grammar is quite good, but I think I don't use phrases or uncommon vocabulary. Is it the reason for not being able to get a 7? It might be. Yeah, it very likely could be. But of course, I'd have to, I'd need to hear you speaking to know that. Like you're guessing. Generally, students are not very capable of guessing what their weaknesses are. Like normally when I do a practice IELTS speaking test with a student, I tell them what their mistakes are, and they'll say, "Oh, I never knew that. I thought my problem was this. I thought So generally, it's quite tough for students to analyze themselves. And the thing as well is, like, you'll say that your vocab is good, but what does that mean? I mean, good to one person might be a band 5, and good to another person might be a band 8. It's very subjective. So, being good doesn't mean band 7. Being good might be band 5. Being good might be band 6. So, your analysis of what good is doesn't necessarily mean that's a band 7. So you need to consider that as well. How much time does it take for basic English grammar? It could take months, could take years. It depends what you need. It depends what your current level is. It depends what you need. It depends how fast you learn. It depends how many hours you study every day. It depends how often you study. So, how big is a hole? It's one of those questions, Hi, Preet. Welcome. Speaking was on in the morning time, and the examiner was 50 plus, a lady 50 plus years old. That would have absolutely no bearing, unless you're not a morning person. If you're some of us, me included, in the morning, I'm a bit foggy. It takes a little bit of time before my brain starts working. In fact, even at the start of this lesson this morning, my brain wasn't really working at full capacity. I'm starting to wake up a bit during the lesson. You might have noticed I was not the most engaging perhaps at the start of this lesson. So yeah, I mean, for me, doing an IELTS speaking test or any type of a test or a job interview first thing in the morning, probably not the best. So if that's you, if you're not a morning person, then morning time mightn't be very, very good for your score. But the gender or the age of the examiner would make no difference. Do you have any speaking tips for listening multiple choice questions? Yeah, start with those. So when you have 30 seconds to prepare for those ones first, because they're so long, you need more time. And the other thing then is, there's a question and then you got 3 or 4 options, but just ignore the options at the beginning. Read the question and then the next question and the next question. Don't worry about reading the options, because there isn't enough time to read all of them. And the thing is, when you read the options, you've read 1 correct and 3 incorrect answers. So, I mean, how useful is that, reading the incorrect answers? If anything, it might be confusing. But if you only read the question, at least you know what information they're looking for. So that's what I would recommend. Hi, Juno. I'm very bad at time management in reading. I've seen that I need to read a lot to improve my reading skills. As I am working person, how can I improve my reading speed, as well as what should I read? Is it okay to read articles from online or news from the internet? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to improve your reading, there are a few small things you can do. So if you put your finger on the sentence that you're reading, that helps your eyes to focus. Like, a lot of people don't like doing it because it's what you see children doing. Like when they're learning to read, they put their fingers along. But the reason that the children do that is because it's easier. It makes it easier. So, do the same thing, put your finger on it, follow what you're reading, or, if you're reading off your laptop, obviously you could put your finger along the screen. The other thing then, a lot of people, they move their lips when they're reading. So it looks like this when they read. Like that. But if you're moving your lips, that's actually slowing you down. So just make sure you're not doing that. And the other thing then, it might not be that your time management is bad. So when you start practicing reading tests first, I would recommend take as much time as you need. So focus on improving your score. Don't worry about doing it in an hour. Take more time if you need more time. Once you're able to get your score, then you start doing it in an hour. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, it might not be your reading speed. It might be your reading strategy. So what I found, like even when I was doing tests, I used to try and do that, like look at question 1, underline the keywords, think of synonyms of the keywords, then scan the text to find the word or the synonym. And then when you find the word, you read it, and maybe the answer isn't there, so you continue, and then you find another keyword, and then you read that. So those strategies can be very, very time consuming compared to what I mentioned earlier about, read the first paragraph, look at all the questions, read the second paragraph, look at all the questions. Like I found with the typical IELTS strategy of keyword skimming, scanning, all that stuff, that I was under pressure to finish a test in 60 minutes. And once I, developed this strategy of going paragraph by paragraph, I can do a test in 45 minutes and get every answer right. So I found that just by changing the strategy, I'm saving a lot of time, and it's a lot less stressful. And there are less opportunities to make mistakes because you're just reading the text instead of trying to find the answer without reading the text. It's very challenging. Okay, Jasleen, how to write thesis of advantages outweigh disadvantage because advantages and disadvantages are same. Do we need to give how advantages or disadvantages are outweighed? Yeah. So what I do is I'll say that I believe the advantages outweigh the disadvantages because the advantages are, and I'll mention 2, and then I'll say, but there's only one disadvantage, which is this. And then by saying there is only one disadvantage, then I've shown why they outweigh, and it stops me from having to, come up with more ideas or justify it. I've said there's only one, and that's why. So yeah, that's how I would do that. Thanks, Hanan. Sir, when I speak and don't think a lot, then it goes well. But when I take time to think, then I face problem. Well, I think you found the solution. Just jump in, try to answer the question. For most students, that would be the opposite, that they find it difficult if they don't think. But yeah, I mean, if that's better for you, that's what you should do, Will be any speaking part 1 live just like you have in last week? Yeah, it will definitely do, but I'll usually cycle through. So part 1 was last time. The next speaking live stream, I'll do part 2. The next one, I'll do speaking part 3. So yeah, we'll get back to part 1 eventually for sure. Can we use phrases in writing task 2? Yes, but I don't think I understand your question, because basically when you say that, what I understand it is, can we use vocab? And obviously that's not the question you're asking. So can you give me more information? What do you mean by phrases, or why do you think we might not be able to use phrases? Can you tell me that, please? What you suggest if I use normal words, which are normally used too, then I score good. If I think that's, I mean to say, I think about different words and that affect my fluency. Yeah, that's fine. That's good. Can we give personal example in task 1? Yep, definitely. Excuse me 1 second. Apologies, my daughter just walked into the room. I'm a morning person, 9 to 5 job. Good. Well, that means that, it wouldn't, doing the test in the morning wouldn't have affected your score. Ratul, I want to join your paid courses, but I don't have a debit card or bank account, but I do have mobile banking apps in phone, which is no God. And is there any way to pay you by this method? Yeah, so there's credit card, debit card, PayPal, and then there's like Google Pay, which I'm not very familiar. I know that is an option on the platform. The LMS that I use accepts Google Pay, but I don't know if I don't know what No God is, and I'm not very familiar with that side of things. But yeah, debit card, credit card, PayPal, Google Pay, and I think there's like there's an iPhone or an Apple version, maybe Apple Pay or something like that. I think that's another option. And I live far from home, so it's quite impossible for me to transfer money from bank account. No, I don't do bank account transfers. So it's all like, there's a platform that deals with the transactions. It's completely secure. So like I would never see somebody's credit card details, or, like I don't get that information. That's all processed by a secure provider. It's processed by Stripe. So, I just go through official routes that are completely secure, so that I don't have to worry about that side of things. I don't want to take any risks, or I don't want to get involved in money transfers and stuff like that. It's not secure enough, so I'm not comfortable with it. And then I've been practicing from a couple of months, sir. I become confident. Before I was scared. When I start practicing by my own, now I feel comfortable with all tests and soon will give exam. Excellent. Good for you, Hanan. That's wonderful. Delighted to hear that now. Writing task 2 next week. That's correct. Yep. Task 2 is next week. Parnpreet. Sir, I wrote BP, body paragraph, just to explain my example. And the topic sentence was just a single line. Although overall essay was quite coherent and errorless, can I get at least 6? Yeah, that sounds okay. And the example, I guess, was off topic. That wouldn't stop you from getting a 6. That would stop you from getting like a 7 or an 8 for task achievement. But it's hard to say. And generally the thing is, like, if you've written an essay, of course you think that the vocab is clear because that's why you used it. You didn't use vocab. You're like, what word can I use that doesn't make any sense? Of course, you wrote it, you understand it, the vocab is clear to you. But does the word have the meaning that you think it means? Does it clearly communicate? Are the collocations confusing? So it's quite difficult. If you write an essay and you say it's completely coherent and I read it and I don't understand it, but that's the real test. When the examiner reads it, can they understand? That's the big thing. Okay, so we've got to the end of the comments. It seems like there aren't any more questions today. A few of you were looking for to join my course, my one-on-one corrections. Just send me an email if you need any information about that, especially if you're joining the course. I'll have a few questions for you just to make sure that that you have realistic goals as well. Okay, we have 3 more comments. Let's look at these and then we'll finish up for today. Jasleen, sir, I guess you used to make speaking candidates comfortable when you were an examiner. Not really, no. No. I used to. I'll tell you what I used to do was confuse candidates, because I used to try, when I started first, I used to try to be friendly. So what would happen was the candidate would open the door and walk in, and I'd say, hello, nice to meet you. Come in, please sit down. And then when the test starts, I have to press record on the voice recorder. And the first thing I need to do is I need to say, hello, my name is, Lar Ryan. I continue. But they're confused. It's like, I just said hello to them when they walked in the door, and now I'm saying hello to them again. So always when I say hello the second time, they'd look at me like, what's going on? So by trying to be friendly, I was actually confusing people and making it more complicated. It's like, I already said hello to you. Am I supposed to say hello to you again now? And I was just making things more difficult. So once I realized that, when they walked in, I put my foot down, and then they walk in, they sit down, I press record, I go, hello. And, so it's weird being an examiner. You're very restricted. You have to do specific things. And it's not all that easy to make people, feel more comfortable. And you're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to say things. So a lot of what you're doing, like if you have an examiner who's trying really hard to make you feel comfortable, they'll do things like this. Because that's all they can do. They can't say anything. So they're like, the friendliest ones just end up making lots of weird faces and trying to smile and trying to look encouraging. But, if you've been examining for 6 months or a year, you run out of motivation for that type of thing. If you have 3 or 4 spelling mistakes, what would that you getting a band score no more than 3 or 4 spelling mistakes? I think that's a 6. Let me check quickly. Normally, students who would make a few spelling mistakes would also be making other mistakes as well. So for a band 6, it says some errors in spelling, and 7 is occasional errors. Yeah, so 4 mistakes would be occasional. You could still get a band 7, but that's providing that you have no other issues, So that would be, if what you've mentioned are the only vocab issues, yeah, you could get a 7. Is 2.5 band in task 1 achievable? I think it would be hard to get a 2.5. It would be hard to mess up enough. Like I've never seen an essay get a 2.5. I've seen, like, if you write nothing, but if you're writing something, like, I've never seen a 2.5. I don't know how. I've never seen a student so willingly. I mean, it would have to be like, maybe. You baffled me. I don't know how you would get a 2.5. You'd have to actively try to get a bad score. I mean, go in and write words that, English words that don't make sense, so that at least it's English, but it doesn't mean anything. Like, it'd be very, very. I don't know how you would do that. Thank you for helpful. Okay, you're very welcome, Hanan. Next speaking live, take a look at my YouTube channel. They're all scheduled in advance. You'll see it there. Ratul, my exam is 17th December. Please pray for me. Absolutely. Best of luck with your test, Ratul. Not able to get a 6 in reading. Listen. Okay, excellent. Okay, so let's leave it there. I have a live feedback lesson tomorrow, so use the link in the video description to sign up, and I will see you there. Take care of yourselves, and talk to you then. I have another live stream next week as well, so see you there. Okay, take care. Bye-bye, everybody.